Have you ever judged a city by the traffic you pass through, a city you only notice from a train window, a place people joke about because it sits beside Jakarta, a city many assume has no story worth telling? But what if everything you believed about Depok was wrong? Because long before skyscrapers reshaped its skyline, long before millions of commuters travelled its crowded streets every single day, long before it became one of Indonesia's fastest growing urban centres, there was a remarkable story unfolding here. A story of freedom, a story of faith, a story of agriculture, a story of resilience, and perhaps one of the most extraordinary stories any Indonesian city has ever carried. This is the story of Depok, a city that refuses to be defined by stereotypes, a city where history whispers beneath modern neighbourhoods, a city that has experienced centuries of transformation while never losing its unique identity. Most people know Depok as Jakarta's satellite city, a place where people sleep before returning to work in the capital. But that description barely scratches the surface, because every road, every neighbourhood, and every landmark carries memories that stretch back more than 300 years. To understand today's Depok, we must travel back to the late 17th century. The Dutch East Indies was expanding, colonial influence was spreading across Java. Power belonged to merchants, colonial administrators, and wealthy landowners. Among them was a Dutch merchant named Cornelis Chastelein. Unlike many wealthy landowners of his era, Chastelein left behind a legacy that continues to shape Depok's identity today. Toward the end of the 17th century, Chastelein purchased a large tract of land measuring approximately 12.44 square kilometers. That land would eventually become the foundation of modern Depok. But his vision extended beyond ownership. Historical records describe how Chastelein established a structured community, creating systems of social organization and local administration for the people living on his estate. Following his death, many of his formerly enslaved workers inherited portions of his land, an unusual decision for its time. Over the years, this community developed its own local leadership and governing structure. Some historical accounts even describe Depok as operating with a remarkable degree of autonomy during parts of the colonial period, giving rise to the popular narrative that Depok once functioned almost like a self-governing territory. While historians continue to discuss the exact political status of this arrangement, there is little doubt that Depok's administrative history stands apart from many neighbouring regions. It was a community shaped not only by colonial influence, but also by local participation and organisation. That unique beginning gave Depok an identity unlike any other city surrounding Jakarta. History, however, is never only about governments. It is also about people, about beliefs, about communities searching for purpose. Depok became one of the places where Christian institutions developed during Indonesia's colonial era. Cornelis Chastelein played an important role in establishing religious and social organizations for the indigenous residents living on his estate. Historical records indicate that churches and community institutions gradually emerged from these foundations, contributing to the broader development of Christian organizations within the Dutch East Indies. These institutions were not merely places of worship, they became centers of education, centers of community life, centers where generations learned values, responsibility, and cooperation. Regardless of religious background, this chapter illustrates how Depok became part of Indonesia's rich and diverse social history. It reminds us that the nation's story has always been woven from many cultures, many traditions, and many communities growing side by side. Yet history alone does not define Depok. Nature has also shaped its character. There was a time when mentioning Depok immediately brought one image to mind: starfruit. Bright, golden green, sweet with just the right balance of freshness. Depok proudly earned the nickname the Starfruit City. For decades, fertile land across the region produced abundant harvests, especially the famous Belimbing Dewa, or divine starfruit. Its quality became known throughout Indonesia. The fruit grew larger, sweeter, more consistent. Farmers carefully cultivated each tree with pride. Their harvests supplied markets across Jakarta, particularly the famous Pasar Minggu. In those days, trains carried not only passengers, they carried hope. Wooden crates filled with fresh fruit rolled along railway tracks every morning. Each shipment represented countless hours of labor beneath the tropical sun. Families depended on these harvests. Communities flourished because of agriculture. Long before shopping malls appeared, orchards painted much of Depok's landscape. The city's agricultural heritage reminds us that progress begins with people who work the land, people whose names history often forgets, people whose quiet dedication feeds entire cities. Today, Belimbing Dewa remains one of Depok's proudest symbols, not merely because of its flavour, but because it represents the city's roots. It reminds every generation that even in an increasingly urban world, identity can grow from the soil. As Depok expanded, another landmark emerged that captured the imagination of millions. Its golden domes shine brilliantly beneath Indonesia's tropical sun. Visible from far away, they create a breathtaking silhouette unlike anything else in the region. This is the Dian Al-Mahri Mosque, better known as the Golden Dome Mosque. The mosque quickly became one of Indonesia's most recognizable religious landmarks. Its magnificent architecture draws inspiration from classical Middle Eastern design. Its grand courtyards welcome visitors from every province. Its elegant domes, covered with gold, symbolize beauty, devotion, and generosity. For countless visitors, arriving at the mosque is more than sightseeing. It is a spiritual experience, a moment of reflection, a reminder that architecture can inspire faith just as much as words. The Golden Dome Mosque transformed Depok into one of Indonesia's important destinations for religious tourism. It demonstrated that modern development and spiritual values can exist together, that progress does not require abandoning tradition. Yet, if agriculture gave Depok one nickname, nature gave it another: the City of Lightning. It sounds almost mythical, as though storms have chosen this place as their home. Interestingly, scientific research conducted during the early 2000s identified Depok as experiencing relatively high lightning activity compared with several surrounding regions. Meteorologists point to geographical conditions, atmospheric dynamics, humidity, and local wind patterns as contributing factors. Certain parts of the city experience especially frequent thunderstorms during the rainy season. To residents, lightning has become part of everyday life, a dramatic reminder of nature's incredible power. For visitors, the nickname sparks curiosity. How can one city be famous for peaceful orchards and powerful lightning at the same time? That contrast perfectly reflects Depok itself: gentle, yet energetic; historic, yet constantly changing; rooted in tradition, yet reaching toward the future. As Indonesia entered a new era during the late 20th century, Depok underwent another historic transformation. Administrative reforms eventually elevated its status into an independent municipality. Population growth accelerated rapidly. New housing developments spread across former farmland. Universities attracted students from every corner of the country. Businesses expanded. Roads widened. Neighborhoods multiplied. Today, millions call Depok home. It serves as one of the most important urban centers within Greater Jakarta. Education has become one of its defining strengths. Thousands of young Indonesians arrive every year carrying dreams inside backpacks and suitcases. They come seeking knowledge, opportunity, a better future. Every lecture hall, every classroom, every library becomes another chapter in Depok's ongoing story. Economic activity continues to flourish. Residential communities expand. Technology companies emerge. Small businesses thrive alongside traditional markets. The city continues evolving without forgetting where it began. That may be Depok's greatest lesson. Real growth does not erase history, it builds upon it. When people hear the word Depok today, they often think about traffic, commuters, universities, or expanding suburbs. Those are certainly part of its identity, but beneath the busy highways lies something much deeper. A place where centuries of history still breathe, a community shaped by extraordinary social experiments, a city connected to Indonesia's agricultural heritage, a destination known for one of the country's most iconic mosques, a landscape where dramatic tropical storms remind everyone that nature remains wonderfully unpredictable. Every city has landmarks, every city has statistics, but only a few possess stories powerful enough to survive across generations. Depok is one of them. It teaches us that greatness is not measured by international headlines. It is measured by endurance, by people, by heritage, by communities willing to adapt without forgetting who they are. Perhaps the next time someone dismisses Depok as merely another city outside Jakarta, you will remember what lies beneath the surface. You will remember the orchards that once fed the capital. You will remember the remarkable colonial history that shaped a unique local community. You will remember the shining domes that inspire millions. You will remember the lightning that earned an unforgettable nickname. And above all, you will remember that every city has a soul. Sometimes, you simply have to look beyond the map to discover it, because the greatest stories are rarely found in the places everyone expects. Sometimes they are waiting quietly in cities like Depok, a city built by history, strengthened by diversity, inspired by faith, driven by progress, and still writing its next remarkable chapter.